The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc.
Welcome to Fed15 podcast, presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we discuss the latest news and info the feds need to know in 15 minutes-ish or less. So whether you are a seasoned federal employee or just getting started in your career, we've got you covered. So grab your coffee, your energy drink, your green juice, whatever it is that gets you rolling or keeps you rolling, and we will tell you what you need to know but might have missed. We're your host. I'm Dan Seif, and I am joined by the radiant and rockin' Katelyn Murray.
Hello, Dan. I'm trying to bring in spring with my, you probably can't tell, but these are little flower earrings, and I've got little flower-de-doos on my dress here. But I have decided that I am going to make it spring with my wardrobe, regardless of whether the weather participates with me.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I learned something last week that I did not know. And that is that there is more than one groundhog that predicts the weather.
Really?
Yeah. Now, I'm a Pennsylvania guy. That's where I was born. So Punxsutawney has been it.
Yeah.
But Katelyn, did you know, because I didn't, and Miss Mary mentioned it to me, that there's also Staten Island Chuck.
Huh. Interesting. Staten Island Chuck sounds like he has a past. You know what I mean?
Like, well, I'm trying to figure out if Pete Davidson is woven in on this or Colin Jost, but then did a little more scratching. And I'm sure somebody's going to let me know one that I missed. So apologies if I left out your groundhog. But we have also General Beauregard D and Weirton Willie. So all make predictions. And what I did not know is that Staten Island Chuck has 85% accuracy, as opposed to Phil, that's only about 35%.
Okay.
So we have dueling hogs out there. And
dueling hogs. The hogiverse.
Well, what I like about it, what I like.
The hog multiverse, yeah.
Exactly. What I like about it is that we can kind of shop, so I will do this for you. I will check and see whether General Beauregard or Weirton or Matthew is saying early spring. And that's who we'll vibe with.
Ah, I like that. Yeah. No, I'm on the team of whoever says spring's coming earliest, because let me tell you, I'm done with winter. We got more snow than we normally do this winter, and most of it was like that icy snow. So yeah, no, I'm ready for it to be like May, June weather.
Yep. So I'm there with you. So what do we have on tap for this episode?
So we have a pretty interesting episode for you today. We're going to be talking about, obviously we are aware that this episode is airing kind of in the thick of tax season. And so Dan is going to be covering a different type of article, actually from our writer Ed Zerndorfer in the Fed Zone this week. But he did this really great piece on Form 5498. We've already had some questions from clients here at the firm on what this is. A lot of folks get it and they think it's a 1099-R reporting distributions from accounts. That is not correct. So we're going to do a little bit of like a deep dive on Form 5498 to kind of bring you a little bit of knowledge there. And then we'll talk a little later in the episode about FEHB and kind of some discussion around the gender-affirming care benefits that are related to FEHB. So we'll talk about coordination there and maybe some alternative coverage paths to explore. So Dan, before we dive into all of that, let's look into this IRS Form 5498. What the heck is that thing?
Well, number one, it's a don't freak out form.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So it is an informational form. So the IRS 5498 covers IRA activity.
Mm-hmm.
contributions, rollovers, conversions, year-end values, and it's reported to the IRA owner and to the IRS, but you don't file it with your federal tax return. And custodians must issue the form by May 31st. What? May 31st? Now I'm freaking out again, Dan. It's April 15th. No, settle down. That's because IRA contributions can be made up through the tax day deadline, which is April 15th. So who gets it? Anybody who owns an individual retirement arrangement account, whatever. So that'd be traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, rollover IRAs, converted Roth IRAs, and SEP or simple IRAs. That's for our folks that have their own businesses, possibly in addition to being Fed. And like any good federal form, there's a ton of boxes. So again, don't freak out. So touching on what's in the boxes. Box 1 shows traditional IRA contributions. So if you made any during the previous year, okay, it doesn't show whether the contributions were deductible. That's handled elsewhere on your tax return. That's 8606. Box 2 is rollover contributions. Okay, so if you rolled something into your IRA, that will show up there. Box 3, Roth IRA conversions, and we do see that a fair amount. That is an important strategy for so many people to make sure that they don't end up just getting crushed by required minimum distributions. And if you're sitting going, wait a minute, Dan, what are you talking about with that? Hit us up at stwserve.com. We can walk you through it. Box 5, fair market value. What's that? It's just what it was at the end of the year. Again, relax, breathe. Okay. That's important for calculating your RMDs for the year. And box 10 shows Roth IRA contributions. So anything that you did in that area. So RMD information, which is important for those of us that are getting closer to that age. I'm not quite there yet. But next birthday will begin with a 7. Don't let the baby face fool you. So box 11 marked if you must take an RMD in the next year. Box 12A and 12B show the RMD deadlines and amounts, but actually custodians are not required to calculate them correctly. I will say those words again. The custodians are not required to calculate them correctly. So the owner's responsible for that. Needs some help there. Again, hit us up. So why does this form matter? Aside from telling you, don't freak out when you get it. It's informational. Okay, so you don't attach it for your taxes, but it's vital for tracking the contributions you may deduct. It's proving that your rollovers were executed properly. And if you have ever seen one that's not executed properly, you know what I'm talking about. Hopefully you never will, because that means you get a huge tax bill and you weren't expecting it. Knowing when your Roth conversions are penalty free, because that starts that 5-year clock, calculating those RMDs accurately, and documenting your IRA history for record keeping purposes, or dare I say it, don't freak out, audits. Okay. So again, you'll typically receive it after the tax filing season. Don't panic if it comes late, and keep it with your records. And here's the big one. Pause, breathe. If something looks wrong, contact your custodian before relying upon it for decisions or planning. So the fact that it's going to arrive after typical filing season is going to rattle people. Don't get rattled. It's normal. So relax and breathe.
I will say, so obviously our custodian is Raymond James here at Serving Those Who Serve, and we love them.
We love them.
But so typically what normally happens in a normal tax year is the 5498 arrives around May. People have already filed their taxes and they're like, oh my gosh, did I do something wrong? This year, though, Raymond James is like on the ball. Mr. James is working overtime, and the 5498s are coming out at the same time as the 1099Rs in February for a lot of people. And so it's freaking people out because they're thinking, oh, this is a 1099R. And it's not. It's just a 5498. It is all good. Most of the time, what it's reporting is not necessarily a taxable situation. It's just, if you do a Roth conversion, you take money out of your IRA, you put it into your Roth IRA. Yes, you have the 1099R showing the transaction coming out of the IRA, but you also have the 5498 showing that money showing up in the Roth IRA. If you think about it logically, If the IRS only saw the money coming out of the IRA and they didn't have proof that it ended up in the Roth IRA, then that wouldn't necessarily be a conversion. That would not a conversion make, right? So it's just both ends of the same transaction to close the loop. That's the way that I think about the 5498. Same with rollovers.
And the big thing is, don't freak out.
Yeah, don't freak out. It's all good.
Don't freak
It's
out.
all good.
So
right.
Katelyn, one of the things I'm really proud of here at the firm is that we never forget we're working with humans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your topic
Mm-hmm.
is very much in that vein. So tell us about it.
Yeah. So this article is on FEHB potential changes to gender-affirming care. There was a lot of talk last year around potential changes to FEHB programming and kind of removing some of those gender-affirming care elements, right? And I'm not here to get into the politics of that. I am here to report on what FEHB covers and what FEHB does not cover. So I would encourage you, if this is something that's important to you, if this is a benefit that's important to you, I would review the 2026 FEHB brochure and the summary of benefits and coverage to discover the specific exclusions and covered services, because we're not going to go through all the minutia of it today. In general, counseling for gender dysphoria remains covered, but you want to check your access details. So there may be pre-authorization requirements. There may be referral rules, like rules around referrals being needed for certain things. There may be network restrictions. And then on the other side of that, if this requires any kind of medication for you, you want to do a pharmacy review. So any formulary exclusions, step therapy, quantity limits, prior authorization needed for medication, those sorts of things. As it stands right now in 2026, for the 2026 coverage year, hormone medications may be covered depending on the specific diagnosis and the same drugs that are prescribed. So what I mean by that is the same exact drug prescribed for two different conditions.
Sure.
One could be covered, one could be not, right? And there may be other options of other drugs that are covered given specific conditions. So you want to make sure you dig into the details on that again, if this is something that's relevant for you. Mental health benefits may run through separate vendors with distinct access rules. So you want to make sure you're careful with that. Do not just assume that it's covered. And if you are mid-treatment, you want to make sure that you're contacting your plan and having a conversation with them in detail and documenting that conversation to understand the exceptions process and your continuity of care rules. I cannot stress enough how important it is sometimes to have that direct conversation. I know it's time consuming to set aside time to have that conversation over the phone. Sometimes it takes forever, and sometimes you're on hold forever, and sometimes you have to talk to several different people till you get somebody who is able to help you with your issue. I get all of that, but also documenting that conversation, the date and time that you had it, the name of the associate, any kind of associated confirmation numbers.
Absolutely.
I tell you this because I once had, not an FEHB, I once had a 6-hour phone conversation with an insurance company regarding birth control. So, and that was covered under my plan, but there were specifics, right? So always, always, always document the conversations that you're having. So let's talk through alternate coverage paths that you can look at for this. So if you've got plan differences, if you've got pharmacy policies, therapy access, exceptions that you're working through, always you have the option once a year in open season to make changes to alternative plans that may provide you with better options. And I know open season is November, but you can have if you realize there's an issue in February, you can ideally find a solution that will carry you through till November. But you can have a conversation in February about what sort of plan you need to be thinking about switching to in November. Don't wait till November to have that conversation, because guess who else is calling in to talk about FEHB plan alternatives in November? Everyone else.
Other person.
Yeah. Everyone else on FEHB. And I don't have the stat for how many feds are covered under FEHB right now, but I would imagine that it is probably a lot. So call in February, right? Buy roses in June, not in February, not at Valentine's Day, right? Call FEHB to learn about your FEHB benefits in February. There may be, as far as potential solutions, there may be cash pay packages and centers of excellence may exist You can get itemized costs from your providers and written agreements from your providers oftentimes to kind of negotiate things with insurance. And then there are also patient assistant programs that may exist through your providers. There may be manufacturer programs that exist through your drug providers and your pharmacy. And there may be nonprofit grants to help you address and reduce cost of care and particularly medication costs. So understand that if you are appealing to your insurance for a specific type of coverage, you may get denied, right, for that request. Understand that you can appeal that decision using the formal appeals process. You're going to want to include a letter of medical necessity for that. You're going to want to include supporting clinical documentation, and you can also request a peer-to-peer review if that's available. So you want to make sure, if you're somebody who is potentially dealing with the threat of not having the coverage that you need, make sure you're asking about plan exceptions. Make sure that you're asking about transitional prescription fills until, again, you can get to open season, and then you can change your plan to benefit yourself more. And make sure, again, we come back to documentation. Make sure you keep all the emails, all the call summaries, all your correspondence, all your deadlines. And again, documentation means the date you called, the time you called, and the time zone, because we got Eastern, we got Pacific, we got a bunch of stuff in between, right? And then the name of the associate that you spoke with and any associated confirmation number. That is documentation. Because if you just say, I called in last week, they're not going to be able to find that call and pull the data that you need, okay? So other things that we can do kind of outside of the FEHB sphere, we want to make sure that we're building a detailed budget. We want to make sure we know what things cost, consultations, procedures, medications, travel, lodging, post-op care, all of that. And you want to make sure that you're accounting for authorization delays with your insurance and appeal timelines there. And it I feel like all roads in financial planning lead back to one central tenet, which is really foundational. And that is making sure that you are maintaining an emergency fund to handle emergencies. And a flub up with your medication is an emergency. If that's going to be an ongoing issue for you until November, then you may want to consider kind of insulating your emergency funds and maintaining additional emergency funds on top of your regular 6 months of spending that you're keeping in cash. But that really allows you a lot of freedom and flexibility, keeping that emergency fund intact.
Absolutely. And again, folks, we've said it a million times, our color is Fed, and our color is always going to be human. And that includes, putting in things about, tax forms that are going to help you that you might freak out over, so you don't have to do that. The ones that are putting that type of stuff out. So we're very proud to make sure that we cover a lot of things that most places don't. So
absolutely. Well, Everybody, we got to wrap up for today, but oh yeah, the time has come. But we will be back next week to bring you all the latest updates that you need to make informed decisions about your career and your financial well-being as a Fed.
And please, 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 please hit that subscribe button on this podcast, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify, so you never miss an episode. But also, that helps us amplify the signal, because the algo is going to say, well, this person liked it. Maybe these people will like it. So we're very proud of all the things that we're putting out there. You can help us get that out there and share it with your friends. I promise you they will thank you.
Yeah, boost that signal. Now, for more information on the topics covered in today's show and more, be sure to check out our blog at blog.stwserve.com. While you're there, you can subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, to get all the latest news for Feds delivered straight to your inbox every single Thursday.
Absolutely. And don't forget those live webinars. We got them. We're doing them again for another year. One of the things you'll see is we are also providing some evergreen video on demand content that'll be going up over the next number of months, but we still have the live ones and a couple you don't want to miss. Our ever popular TSP webinar will be March 11th from 11 till 2. And I happen to know one Katelyn Murray is going to be presenting that, and I'll be assisting. So you don't want to miss that.
If you like to hear me yell at you about TSP maximum contributions, come to that webinar. And there'll be more.
You don't yell, you encourage stridently.
Yeah.
And next up on the 17th, we've got, once again, our ever popular FEHB, Medicare, and TRICARE. So many questions get answered in those. That's from 10:30 to 2:30. And that is the Guru Ed Zorndorfer, and I'll be assisting with that one. Sign up for one, sign up for all. Your friends will thank you if you tell them about it. And also, if you are looking for something a little more personalized, hit us up at info@stwserve.com, and we will sit with you and explain things and have financial planning conversations, whatever you prefer. We're here for you. Just hit us up. We are ready to go.
Absolutely. You can email us to request that at meetings@stwserve.com. So thank you, everyone, for listening to the Fed15 this week. I am Katelyn Murray.
And I am Dan Sipe.
And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
We'll be here.